Hi everyone, my name is Anthony, and I'm a student here at the UCLA School of Dentistry. And today, we will be learning about the basics of photography. Now this video is geared more towards users who have no prior experience with a camera like this, or a DSLR. But the principles explained in this video are still important to all aspects of photography. So learning or relearning the basics will really help hone your skills as a clinical photographer. Well, are you excited? Because I am. So let's get started. Now, to understand the basics of photography, we need to know the three most important terms, which are 1. Aperture, 2. Shutter speed, and 3. ISO. Now, what do all these mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. So let me explain. So in photography, aperture is the opening in your lens, kind of like the pupil in your eye. Now the bigger the aperture, the more light your lens lets through. So if you look on your camera, the aperture is going to be a number following the letter F. Now aperture is a little bit tricky because the smaller the aperture number, the wider the aperture actually is. Well, now you're asking, what does all this matter? Well, it matters because aperture also affects something called the depth of field. Now, the depth of field tells you how much of your picture is going to be in focus. And in relation to aperture, the wider the aperture, the shallower your depth of field is going to be. I know that's a little bit confusing, so how about we take a look at some examples. So here, we have 3 pictures shot at different apertures. As you can see, the smaller the aperture, the deeper the depth of field. And from the left to right, we are stopping down the aperture or making it smaller, so that more of the background comes into focus. Next up, we have shutter speed. So shutter speed is how fast your camera is closing its blinds, or basically how fast it's blinking. Now a lower shutter speed is going to let more light through, and a higher shutter speed is going to let less light through the lens. And a result of that is motion blur. So let's take a look at some examples. So here we have 2 pictures comparing the effects of shutter speed. At a higher shutter speed, your camera is able to freeze motion as shown by the picture on the right. A lower shutter speed then will give you blurry pictures if your subject is moving, like in the picture on the left. Now I think shutter speed is pretty cool to play with because it can give you some really interesting pictures like these. Now lastly, we have ISO. The ISO number tells you how sensitive to light the camera is, so the higher the ISO, the more sensitive it is. Now a higher ISO allows you to take better pictures in low lighting, so if you find that your pictures are coming out a little bit dark, just bump up the ISO, that way your pictures will come out brighter. Now there's also a cost to this, and the disadvantage is that the higher you go on the ISO number, the grainier your image becomes. So really, only change your ISO when you can't change the other 2 settings that we've been talking about, like the aperture and shutter speed. Now, balancing all these 2 factors is what photography is all about. Knowing when and what to change. Now, understanding how they interact with each other will really help you as you move on to taking pictures in clinic. So remember, when you run into trouble, just come back to the basics and you will be fine. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that this video has helped you guys gain a better understanding of photography. And now, all we have to do is to turn theory into practice. And just like in dentistry, practice will only make you better. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.